Well, my most famous book that I've published internationally is called The Secret by Rhonda Byrne, and it's been translated into 7 Indian languages and 52 languages around the world, and continues to be a big bestseller. And it's a book about the law of attraction, how what you put out comes back to you. Whatever you want, you can have, provided you know what it is, which is a very good thing for all of us to remember. Well, it was very interesting because the book didn't exist. It was made as a film. And someone sent me a link to the movie, and the movie couldn't get any distribution, so it was digital, it was online distribution only. And I saw it, and the first sort of 5 seconds, I had that tingling feeling that said, there's something really here. And then I watched the whole film, and as I was watching it, I realized there were many questions I had about the history and the correspondence and the ideas behind all the things that were being discussed. So therefore, a book would make sense. And one thing led to another, and I used to walk around to the office holding up the DVD and saying, this is going to be our next bestseller when we turn it into a book. And it has been, and we've gone on to publish 2 more books with Rhonda, and it's a fantastic collaboration. And we published many fiction and non-fiction authors, Jodie Picoult, Vince Flynn, Jennifer Weiner, many that people would know. Well, we have a relationship with a company out in Portland, Oregon called Beyond Words, and we had been buying books from them, and then we decided that we should have a collaboration rather than always taking from them, which is a new way of thinking about things. And their editor-in-chief called me and said that one of the people that were in the film had told her about it, and what did I think? And she made the conversation with Rhonda, and then Rhonda and her office, I made the deal with them, and then it was a wonderful collaboration, of course, and we were able to execute Rhonda's creative vision exactly as she had wanted it, which is the whole point of being a publisher. Is not your vision, it's their author's vision. Well, I have some Indian authors that I publish in the United States already. Indu Sundarista has written this wonderful historical trilogy based upon the building of the Taj Mahal called The 20th Wife, and I know she's published in India as well. And through her, it's sort of, you get the history and the kind of love of the history of India. But growing up as an Australian and being educated in the Commonwealth and the Empire, we kind of had a connection point with India in a way because of the history that we learned, and also the Jewel in the Crown, all of the early literature, and then of course the hippie trail fiction and non-fiction that came out of Australia in the 70s and 80s, of people discovering India on the ground, so to speak. And then what's happening with the Indian diaspora is amazing. I mean, it's wonderful and very successful in many different areas of culture and literature, of course, which we're interested in, and business and finance and digital and politics and sport, everything. So I think that everyone in the world really needs to know and wants to know more and more about India. And the magic of film has opened up to a lot of people as well, so everyone is looking for that. Well, I have made my way in publishing by starting with authors at the beginning of their careers and not necessarily by the intersection part way through. So I'm always open to new authors and new voices, because then we can work together and build a long relationship, because one book is not all the work of the author, and you can have a long life and up and down as an author, and my job is to help you have that. Yes, it's true. With it's interesting. You can look at it both ways. There's a lot of change, not just in publishing, but in any creative work. The right to have free or not, the right to the person to be able to make a living out of their craft and out of their talents. Those two things sometimes don't sit side by side well. And so there is that, but now there's more and more retailers that don't exist in that way, selling the physical book, but it provides a huge amount of opportunity. And I'm very interested in how the intersection of the printed page and the digital world, so that everyone talks about having two screens, but why can't they be paper and a smartphone, for example? And I've created this list of books called ATRIA Smart Books. It's read, listen, watch, learn, and they're printed books, and mostly all non-fiction at the moment. And then throughout there are sort of digital QR codes which you activate with your phone, which give you more of that story, or another way of explaining how to do the practical thing that's talked about. But what's really interesting about that, it sort of plays with the idea of time. We have one book, which is a cooking book by Rachel Ray, very famous in the United States, and with the code at the beginning of her printed book, every time once a week if you go there, you'll have more information and more recipes. So the book never stops. So I think I'm just playing with these things to learn how to do it best before it explodes. You have to always begin to get started. So it's very interesting. And I have a concept where the book can be its own store. Well, it's very interesting to me. And I have published quite a few very successfully recently, very quickly, and it's made me understand that there's a new role for publishers, and it's quite different than the traditional one. And these authors have moved over to us, and they're indie authors, as in independent, in the same way that an independent filmmaker, because you have to respect the creative part of the process that they have done, which used to be just the province of the publisher. But they require a new set of skills from the publisher to help them get their voices out there. And Jamie Maguire and Tina Reber and Colleen Hoover and others that we have signed up. It's been very interesting, and I have learned a tremendous amount about how to be a better publisher through those authors. That's what I'm here to find out. Because this is my first visit to India, it will not be my last. It's fantastic, I love it. And I know nothing. And so I realized that when I came here, I had to just forget everything I knew and start again. So I don't know the answer to that question. And then once I find a little bit more, then I can bring my knowledge on top of that. But I can't assume I know anything at the moment.